And is it on? Okay. I was told it would be on. Okay. Good morning. And welcome to Sunday worship at First Parish in Concord. My name is Bojena Smith. My pronouns are she, her, and I am honored to serve on the governing board. First Parish is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and love lies at the center of our faith. Connected by our shared values, we gather to live out our mission together, to deepen spiritually, to build community, and to make a positive difference in the world. Welcome to all joining us both in our sanctuary and on Zoom. If you're visiting or new to the congregation and need assistance, please chat with your online Zoom host or see one of our ushers at the rear of the sanctuary. The parlor downstairs serves as our wiggle room where young ones can play, accompanied by their adult caregivers, while the service streams on a large screen. After the service, you are invited to coffee hour in the parish hall where I and members of the welcoming and membership team will be available to answer questions and help you get connected. For those who prefer a quiet space to reflect on the themes of the service, you are invited to our worship sharing circle on Zoom and in the Brooks Room immediately following the service. Please check out the announcements bulletin in your order of service for upcoming opportunities to participate in our vibrant congregational life. All members are invited and encouraged to return to the sanctuary by 11:30 for a special congregational meeting to vote on the nomination of Doug Baker, our former long-serving sexton and curator, for emeritus status. Be sure to visit the sign-in table to get your ballot during coffee hour. If you plan to participate in the meeting online, please log back into our Zoom room using the same link we use for worship. Welcome once again. To gather in worship is a sacred act, and your presence among us is a blessing. We are glad and grateful that you are here.
Thank you, Bojena, and welcome once again to Sunday worship on this first Sunday of October. My name is Jennifer Johnson. My pronouns are she and her, and it makes me so happy to get to serve as the lead minister here at First Parish in Concord. This month, we are going to be exploring the theme of cultivating compassion during our worship service. And we will begin, as we deepen into worship this morning, with words from the Reverend Scott Taylor. Come into this circle of compassion and care. Bring your worry and wounds, your longings and hopes. With word and song, we weave the connection that mends what's been torn. With stillness and the space to pause, we restore our strength for the work that must be done, the work of love, the work of peace, the work of repair, the work of remembering we are not alone. Let us begin in song. Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn. It's number 18. The words are on the screen. What Wondrous Love. It's now the time in our worship service to light the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. So you might wonder what I'm doing down here. Before we light the chalice, I'd like to invite any and all young people who would like to come forward and take some seats in and around the front pew here. And that's because I need some help with the chalice this morning. I'd love for anyone who wishes to come up front and help out with our chalice. And Reverend Amy is going to help us too. You'll see that Amy has a gift bag. And that gift is a gift from me to the congregation to celebrate that last year you called and installed me as your settled minister. And at the installation celebration last year, you gifted me with the gorgeous and meaningful stole that I'm wearing. And now I have a gift for you. And it's something that we can share when we're all together in worship. My gift actually comes in two parts, and today we're just going to open the first part, and Amy's going to help, and I hope all of you will help. Okay. Hold that very carefully. What is it? Very carefully, and maybe put it right here. Right here. Oop. Can anyone tell us what that is? It's a candle. What's different about this candle? It has some liquid inside of it. What else is different about it? It seems, or drown. Yeah, this long wick is inside and you can see it. And it's clear, right? It's not made of wax like candles often are. It's actually a candle that burns oil. That liquid is oil instead of wax. And it's going to fit right in our beautiful chalice. So Amy can go on up and put it in our chalice. The reason why I'm giving this as a gift is because oil lamps do a really good job of keeping a big, bright, steady flame. I've noticed that sometimes with our wax candles, the wick dips down and we can't see the chalice for the whole time that we're worshiping. And I wanted us to be able to see our flame while we're together in worship because our chalice is a very important part of our worship. It's the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. So Amy is going to light it. Let's give it a go. And now that we've lit our chalice, let us join in the unison chalice lighting words for the month of October and our theme, Cultivating Compassion. The words are on the screens. We light this chalice as we learn to hold both tenderness and strength. May this flame illuminate the wisdom to know when compassion calls us to offer comfort and when it demands courageous action. And now we're going to hear a word from Amy to remind us about why our chalice is so important.
Actually lit, because sometimes with oil lamps, it doesn't quite light right away. So I think it's very auspicious that we had such a bright flame. Why do I feel that way? Why do you feel like that's exciting? Yeah. We need to wait for it, right, if it didn't light right away. But what is it about a flame that gives us this sense of energy and excitement? What is it about it? Yeah. It's light. It is always light. And what is it about light that gives us a special feeling? Oh, tell me something else. The flame. It gives us the power to roast marshmallows. Yes. Sweetness and gathering around a fire. Both amazing things. And you got everyone to chuckle, which is also important. Yeah. Warmth. Absolutely. So our flaming chalice comes to us by a very important story. During World War II, the Unitarian Service Committee, and I say just Unitarian because it was pre-merger, it was before we became Unitarian Universalists. The Unitarian Service Committee was doing important work to rescue, especially children, from the horrors of war that were happening throughout Europe. But there were barriers of language and religion. Sometimes people didn't know who could help them. And so they wanted to create a symbol that would help people beyond the barriers of race and religion and language to know where to go for help. And so someone named Hans Deutsch designed for a logo a flaming chalice. And later, much later, our Unitarian, mostly, congregations started to adopt a flaming chalice in our congregations. It was grassroots. It didn't come to us from the UUA. It came up from the congregations. And some congregations didn't like it because they thought lighting candles, oh, that's not part of what we're about. We don't want to light candles. But there was something about a flame and coming together. And you notice it's not just a flame. What would you say that shape on the bottom looks like to you? Kind of like a plate in this version. But what do other ones look more like? I'm going to... Hands. Well, those are my hands. But it's coming together two symbols. It's the flame, which you guys have mentioned many important things about a flame, and a cup. The chalice cup in particular is a symbol used in the ritual of communion, which is part of our Christian tradition. And it's more ancient than that. It goes back to earth-centered traditions. The idea of a shared cup. What does that mean to you? What do it mean to have a shared cup? Yeah. Absolutely. Everybody gets a part of the cup. So it comes from our Christian tradition, so that has to do with our connection to the story of Jesus and him coming together, bringing people together to do this in remembrance of me. It also brings to mind Passover Seder and more ancient traditions of coming together in community, that everyone is included around the table. So that is our story today about the flaming chalice. I'd love to hear more about what it means to you. It's a symbol that has become very important to many of us. Today, we start talking about cultivating compassion in kindergarten through 5th grade. We have Little RE for preschoolers down in the Mill Dam space, if any parents of preschoolers like to go down there now. Today, we start Crossing Paths, which is our opportunity to learn more about the world's religions and to be good neighbors and visiting other houses of worship. And I'm so excited because you've got the amazing gospel ensemble as part of your service today. So lots to celebrate. Let us join together in song.
How moving to hear the voices of our youth gospel choir, again with some new voices among them and joining with the voices of our adult choir. Choosing love, sharing love in song. Won't you breathe with me now during this time that we set aside each week to be mindful, still, and thoughtful together. Let us breathe down into that heart space in our chest, that space deep enough and wide enough to hold all the joys and sorrows, all the worries and concerns and milestones and triumphs that reach us across this web of community that we weave together. And into that deep wellspring, that wide river of compassion, I invite you to hold the following concerns that have been shared with us this week. Jim Reynolds shares that his father, Dan, has decided to enter hospice care at home in Concord, where he lives with Jim and Jim's wife, Nancy Johnson. I'm saddened to share the news that Alan Whitney died in hospice care at the Gardens at Newbury Court the afternoon of last Sunday, September 28th, at the age of 81. Alan was surrounded by his wife, Lois Whitney, and children, Sarah and Eric Whitney. Please hold the Whitney family in your hearts and prayers, along with all who knew and loved Alan. Jan Power shares the sad news that her father, John Power, died peacefully on Friday after several years of declining health. Jan was able to be with him in his last hours and at his last breath. Please hold Jan and her family in your hearts. And may Alan and John rest in the abiding love of all whose lives they touched. Let us breathe again, ever deepening and widening that well of compassion. Let us open it wider still as we invite all who wish to speak a name or a word of prayer into our circle of compassion. You are invited, if you are online, to type your prayer into the chat, and all are invited to speak quietly in the space that you are in. Let us share a moment of sacred silence, breathing and being, loving and caring together. Spirit of life and love, source of being, gracious God, help us to make room in our hearts for sadness. Help us to accept the embrace of our sadness. Help us to heed the tender pangs of heartache, the tingle of holy tears rising, and the warm release of their falling. For it is sadness, sadness that is gentle and true, that stills the winds of our torment, clears the storm clouds of our despair, and ushers in an aftermath of clarity, illuminating that which we have loved and which is now lost or broken or separated from us. It is sadness that recalls our longing for all that is most precious and meaningful in our lives. It is sadness when we are sinking down that gathers our friends round to mend our pain and sorrow, to remind us that we are not alone, and to recall us to the love that recreates our lives and the world in goodness and beauty. Amen. We gather together each week to practice spiritually, to practice what it means to be the people we wish to be and to create the world as we wish it to be. And as part of that practice, we give generously to support both the ministries of this congregation and the mission of community partners who share our Unitarian Universalist values. This month, we will be sharing our plate collection with the Robbins House, and Cindy Sewell, who was part of the group that nominated Robbins House, will be sharing a word on their behalf and inviting your generous giving.
Good morning. The Robbins House is a Concord-based nonprofit organization focused on raising awareness of Concord's African American history during the 19th century, particularly through the lens of the Robbins and Garrison families. The stories of the occupants of the Robbins House reveal the ways in which the first generations of free Black Concordians pursued independence and contributed to the anti-slavery and abolitionist movements. These stories connect Concord to the broader American story. They show that fundamentally Black history is American history. Without the Robbins House, these stories risk disappearing again. The Robbins House tells the stories of Caesar Robbins, Ellen Garrison, and generations of Black patriots and advocates whose courage shaped our nation. The Robbins House this year has partnered with our Racial Justice Action Group and First Parish to uncover the history of enslavement within the First Parish congregation. Using primary sources such as baptismal and marriage records, ledgers, overseer of the poor, and assessor records, Researchers are uncovering the stories of the Black men and women who lived and worked in Concord and who were tied to the First Parish Church as recipients of baptism and marriage rites, and who were enslaved by white members of our congregation. These recovered stories help tell a deeper and more meaningful narrative of American history in Concord and beyond. Fundamentally, through the work the Robbins House is doing, we're adding pages to America's story, not removing them, and ensuring that those pages are never invisible again. Please give generously.
One of the things that I love about our Unitarian Universalist faith and about being a Unitarian Universalist minister is that we can draw on all kinds of wisdom sources in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning, to take spiritual lessons and shape them in ways that are meaningful for our own lives. And so our reading this morning is not actually a reading, it's a movie clip from a Disney Pixar movie called Inside Out. And just briefly, I'll share. This movie is about 10 or 11 years old, so there will be a huge spoiler alert, but, you had your chance. So Inside Out tells the story of young Riley, whose happy childhood in Minnesota was upended by a cross-country move with her parents to San Francisco. And the action of the movie takes place in two realms as Riley struggles to cope with this momentous, life-altering development in her life. So it takes place in kind of the real world, the real fictional world, and also inside an imagined landscape of Riley's mind, populated by embodied characters who represent her core emotions: joy, anger, disgust, fear, and sadness. And so that is all I'll say. We're going to see kind of one of the maybe the concluding scene, you might say. So again, spoiler alert, but it is a wonderful representation. So please enjoy.